Hello everyone, it is Jay, and today we're talking about Jay's theory. Theory. What is Jay's theory? Well, hello there. I'm glad you asked. So, Jay's theory. What is Jay's theory? Jay's theory is when a child is born and raised under the family first mindset, and when God is instilled in them that they will be successful in their future endeavors. That sounds a little outrageous, don't you think? Can you care to further explain? Well, I can see where you're coming from. So let me break this down into 3 easy short stories. Story number 1. At the age of 6, in Forest City, Arkansas, my cousins and I decided to go see our uncle's red green motorcycle. So we walk about a mile away from great grandma's house, and once we get there, my Uncle Red pulls up. We see his green motorcycle. It's just looking so pretty. So once he gets it off the back of his truck, he speeds by us a couple of times, and once he stops, my cousin D says, "Hey Jay, why don't you touch the tailpipe?" So being a curious little 6-year-old, I go in and I touch the hot tailpipe and I burn my 3 fingers. On the car ride home, I just got my fingers up in the air and trying to cool them off. Just in the back, I'm hearing my cousins just making fun of me. He touched the tailpipe. He touched the tailpipe. And I am just bawling in tears. So when we get home, I ask, "Can I get a stick of butter, please? Put it on my fingers." And they give me the stick of butter. So what does all of this have to do with your theory? So to make a long story short, at the age of 6, I was basically going off trust versus mistrust. Trusted what my family said, and I mistrusted them because it's making fun of me. Historia dos. The second short story, talking about life and death. It's a hot June afternoon, and my coworkers and I get off work at the St. Louis Science Center. And we decided to go to the mall because it's a beautiful day outside. And afterwards, we're going to go back to one of our houses and play a video game tournament. So we're en route, we're going there, and it starts to trickle down. I'm like, oh, nobody really expected this rain to come down. Not at all. So as we get closer and closer to our destination, it just starts to pour down, raining cats and dogs. So when we get there, we're like, we're not feeling this anymore. So turn around, hop right back on the highway, and we're headed to our side of town. Once we're on the highway, en route back to our side, it just starts pouring down, raining cats and dogs. And it's just coming down so much, we can't see in the windshield. I'm driving and I see our exit. I start to get over. And once I got over, this car in front of us just slammed on their brakes. We're going at least 65, 70 miles per hour. And I freeze in a moment. So I swerving back to the other lane. And I'm like, I look back, I'm like, oh my gosh, what just happened? Things settled down inside the car. I'm just like, God really just saved us from crashing into this car. And it's just appalling to me. I'm struck. I was mentally frozen. Like, we could have just slammed right into the car, but no. God just reached down and pulled us out. 16, being a Christian, it's just hard, you know. Just sinning against him, just doing all these things against God. And it's just like, he just saves my life because he knew that I had more in store than just dying right there. So that's what he did. Récit-toi. So a year ago, at the age of 18, I went through the worst thing in my life and losing my mom in stage 4 colon cancer. And that weekend before she passed, I was out of town. I went to the Show Me State baseball games in Columbia, Missouri. And prior to our first game, we FaceTimed. I talked to her, and as soon as she picked up the phone, I knew that something was a little bit off because she didn't look the same way as I left her in, and she didn't sound the same. While we were talking, she started to have some problems breathing, and my grandma took the phone. She said that she'll be here when you get back. So while at the Show Me games, everything is cut short on the second day. because of the weather conditions. We couldn't play baseball, obviously. So I come home. As soon as I get home, my cousin picks me up from the house and we rush to the hospital to see her. When I get there and I walk in, fully dressed, I just came from the Show Me Baseball game. I'm fully dressed in my uniform, got my medal on. I go into the room, in her ICU room, and I see her there. She's in this like coma state where she could hear you, but she couldn't talk. So when I get there, I'm just distraught. I'm crying, obviously. And I asked everyone to leave the room, let me have some time alone. And I talked to her, just there rubbing her hand, and put my medal around her chest, and I just break down crying and go home. Next day, I get the news that she passed, and it's just horrible. And a few weeks later, I had to start my freshman year at Columbia, which was just a train wreck, just everything. Just in my second semester of my freshman year, I started to connect more with God, just working on my relationship. I started to pray every night, just day in and day out. And Columbia hit me with some financial burdens of taking away my Parent Plus loan. And it was just, I just had to trust in God and in my family that everything would be all right. And everything turned out to work all right. So in the end, my whole theory and short stories all coming together in the same line as Erickson's about being positive and negative, having a balance. One side not being too positive, other side not being too negative. And with God in the middle of everything, it just levels it out. I have my own self-control, I have my own mindset. I'm not out here doing anything that I shouldn't be. So thank you for your time once again. It's Jay.